Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another episode.
Working on OpenShift.
And sometimes we have a
This is so
we
awesome.
are an open culture that believes
It's actually
in
a big
importance of
piece of the
transparency.
component for your GitOps work.
Everybody has something that they can say.
On top of the Red Hat portfolio. Hey.
Hello. Oh man, I haven't seen that version in a minute. Hello, GitOpsians. Hi, Johnny.
What's it up?
And obviously we have Harriet and Gerald here as well. So just very, very quick introduction of the stream today. Longtime viewers will realize that we've been gone for much longer than I said we would at our last stream. My bad. So to recap, I had a planned shoulder surgery. I expected to be out 6 weeks. Surgeon got in there. My shoulder was very wrecked, and I was much longer than 6 weeks. I ended up being out for 12 weeks. You'll see that my arm is free and moving at this point in time, but I actually still have to wear a sling quite a bit, and I will continue to have to wear a sling quite a bit for the next 3 months. So that's really exciting. It's not exciting.
That's rough.
It's rough. Yeah, it's rough. But I'm getting better every day. Physical therapy twice a week is very good, and I am capable of typing again, which is actually really huge. Yes, like riding a bike. Thank you, Christian. So with that said, yeah, sorry, folks. I'm sure you all missed us terribly. Or we're not at all. I don't know. I missed this terribly because this is very fun for me. And we're going to kick right back into it. So Harriet and Gerald are with us today, and they're going to teach us about the Argo CD agent. But first, introductions. Harriet, who are you? What do you even do here?
Hi, my name is Harriet. Hillary and I frequently get our names confused for each other by other
All
parties.
the time.
I'm the PM for OpenShift GitOps. So I work with the team at Red Hat. We work on our version of the Argo project that we package for Red Hat customers. And then I also work with the upstream Argo CD community, doing as much as I can as a non-code person, but I try and help. So, hello.
Gerald, you've been on here before, but reintroduce yourself for posterity's sake.
Sure. So my name's Gerald. I'm the technical marketing manager for OpenShift GitOps. I help our internal field team as well as customers get the most out of the product, and help bring any features they're looking for back to the engineering team and Harriet to prioritize and get done, hopefully.
Hopefully is always the key word there. All right. Thank you for the introductions. Harriet, I believe you're kicking off our presentation today, right?
Yeah, so I have slides, but I'm not sure if they'll be like super thrilling for everyone.
You can always just not do the slides unless you get to a thing where you're like, you know what, the slide would be helpful here, and then bring it up, because people, this is not that serious. People don't care if we have slides.
Yeah. So we had to talk about the Argo CD agent, which I am personally extremely excited about. Hopefully everyone else is excited about it as well. I feel like people are, because I ended up standing in for Jan Fischer at ArgoCon, the one in April. That felt like much sooner ago than it actually was. April was quite a while ago. So Jan was supposed to give a talk on the agent, but right at the last minute he couldn't attend, and so I had to step in and give the talk for him. Thankfully, he'd already written it all, and I got to just stand up and present his wonderful
I love
content.
presenting other people's hard work. That is always really nice.
And so not only did Jan write this amazing talk, he also built the whole agent. So it was just all wrapped up in a bow for me to come up and be like, hello, everyone, here's the agent. But we got a bunch of interest after that. We had a heap of people come up and ask questions. And we've already had a bunch of community contributions on the GitHub for Argo Agent. If you are looking for it, it's in Argo Proj Labs. It's called Argo CD Agent. And we're gratefully accepting any community contributions. Anyone who wants to get involved, that would be wonderful. We can drop a link into the chat.
I've got it. Yep.
Thanks.
You got it? Okay.
Awesome. Thanks. So I'll start off by talking a little bit about like where this came from. It's not like agents are a new concept. In fact, like they're pretty popular, especially in CI/CD land. Oh, thank you, Gerald. Also going to link to some documentation for the agent as well. That's a great idea. A while ago, so whenever Gerald and I and Jan are talking to our customers, we often have the same kind of discussions with them about like what are their needs, what are you folks using Argo to do, how do you want to set it up? And they're like, you know what, I'm not really sure how to set it up. Do we have one centralized Argo instance that has all of our applications in together and then we get a nice single pane of glass? Or actually we have these teams that have really strict security requirements and we don't want them to be sharing the same Argo. Maybe we should have a bunch of different Argos on all our different clusters. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, but you have to choose one or the other of these. And that everyone's always like, oh, that's really annoying. Like, yeah, we know. But unfortunately, that was just how Argo worked. So after a lot of these discussions, Jan had been kind of tinkering with an agent model in his spare time. So I thought, why don't we see if the community actually wants this? So we put that into Argo Proj Labs, and Jan very quickly whipped it up from just a POC into like a full-blown, not quite production ready, but pretty awesome project. And that is what you can see today. So we've got 0.41, I think, is the version that's out right now. And I'm so sorry, my dog is squeaking at the door.
Dogs doing dog things, very classic for this stream.
He may come and join us on screen. So I'm just going to let my dog out so that he doesn't bother me anymore. Gerald, maybe you could talk about the great not having to choose between centralized and decentralized that we get.
Sure. From my perspective, one of the big questions customers typically have around centralized versus distributed is handling scalability, right? Like Argo scales really well when you've got, say, 5-10 clusters, but when you get into hundreds or even thousands that some of our customers are running, you kind of need to make a choice at that point. Do I want centralized where I get the single pane of glass and easy management, but I have trouble scaling and I can only scale so far? Or do I want a distributed model where I lose that single pane of glass, but I can essentially scale infinitely, right? So from my perspective, the agent really kind of brings the best of both worlds together. You get the centralized single pane of glass out of the centralized model with the agent, as well as all the scalability benefits that you get with the distributed model, right? Like because the agent and the application controller are running on the target clusters, you're not having to scale that application controller, which tends to be the bottleneck in Argo CD because it doesn't scale horizontally, it scales vertically. It only scales horizontally, as you probably know, with sharding, right? Which is imperfect in some ways. So it really addresses a lot of those challenges that customers have in being able to run Argo CD at scale and still be able to get that single pane of glass experience that they're looking for.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick because I think that is really important. I feel like we're dealing with a shared understanding of agent here. But with all of the things like AI agents and this and that or whatever, I think it's really important that we actually take a moment, step back. Let's define these terms. I do see them defined in the README on the project, so we could just borrow that instead of making up anything else. But I think just for clarity's sake, I know what you guys are talking about. Johnny probably knows what you guys are talking about. You obviously know what you're all talking about. But let's make sure the audience is on the same page.
Yes. Excellent point. In fact, I was just writing some documentation yesterday and trying to define what the agent is. It's like micro level. It's a Go binary. I have a very helpful slide.
See, I knew we'd
we've
get
got-
there.
You're correct, as usual. All right, so this is the kind of architecture that you might be familiar with today. Many boxes, but generally we've got all of the yellow boxes are the Argo CD pieces that you'd be familiar with, and they're all inside that one cluster, the big blue box. With the agent, we get to move some things to a remote cluster. And so these two little red box here are what we're talking about with the Argo CD agent. So the agent on the remote cluster is the little Go binary, and that it gives one-way communication from the remote cluster to the control plane cluster. So anything that you need, like stuff from those little yellow boxes in the control plane cluster, instead of the control plane having to know where the remote cluster is, it doesn't care. There can be as many remote clusters as you like, all with different agents on them, and it doesn't need to know. Those little agents are the ones that say, okay, I know where the control plane is. They reach out to the control plane, they can get what they need, and then come back to their remote cluster. Have I pitched that at the right level? How did we go there?
I think that does the things, yes.
Okay, great. So there are the two parts to the agent. So there's the part that lives on the remote cluster. There's also the principal that lives on the control plane cluster. So that is a new piece as well, not just the agent itself. And as part of like moving from this world to this world, there are some there's some scripts available in the repo already to help you get set up. And we'll be putting some more work into kind of migration guides and that kind of thing as we move towards GA.
So question, with the agent principal, is that a one-to-many, like one principal to many remote clusters, or is it a one-to-one? There's one instance of the principal per remote cluster.
I believe it's one to many, so one principal, many agents. But
Yeah, one to many. Yeah.
And just from like I guess the way I'm trying to visualize this is like with the agent now, that means that I don't have to have an Argo CD instance on my spoke clusters anymore, right? I would just have this agent. All that communication happens via the agent, and then
you have a partial instance basically.
Okay.
So the whole point of the principal and agent is being able to split up and distribute Argo CD components across different clusters. So and it somewhat depends too on the mode, which we haven't gotten into, but so on the principal side, Harriet's got a great diagram here. You've got the server running, which provides the UI and the API at that centralized point. That's where you get the nice centralized pane of glass. Depending on the mode, you don't actually have the application. Yeah, you don't have the application controller running here at all. You can see it's the application set controller, which was what was throwing me off for a second. But it's the application controller, which is typically responsible for, pushing out the resources or deploying the resources on the cluster. That's gone away. And now that runs on the remote cluster, as you can see on the box on the right. And that's where it lives, along with potentially the repo server and Redis, again, somewhat dependent on the mode and whether those components are there or not. So the agent principal basically almost acts as a proxy between the two clusters, right? And it manages it in a way using resilient network communications, because the idea is that network communication between the agent and the principal might not be very good. I'm sure Hillary's experienced that many times in her SRE career. Pods.
No, never.
Pods can go up and down. And I'm, Jan did a lot of work on this as well as the engineering team, and I'm super impressed with the architecture they went with. I've blown away and brought back clusters and pods over and over again, and it's never had any problems with it from a communication point of view.
Nice.
And maybe the other thing, Harriet, if you want to elaborate on too, is the aspect of the communication being one way, which is really interesting as well.
Yes. So that's been like a main thing for a lot of our more security conscious customers, is that they've got some clusters are firewalled off, and they don't want to have they're not allowed to, like they've got regulatory compliance things that they have to adhere to, where they literally cannot have connections going into that cluster. So the only way they can do things is
Cool.
So the way that we were using Argo, like that just didn't work for them. They had to have a separate instance inside that cluster, and obviously that's going to consume resources, and that's going to, like, as everyone is aware, Argo can be quite large.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be expensive, but it quickly gets expensive. And but I don't mean in terms of monetary, I mean in terms of resource allocation.
Yeah. And like that's another massive issue that people run into, is like scaling. It like blows up really fast. But from the like one-way communication thing, like I know everyone is really into zero trust these days, and I think, like Gerald was saying, that's like one of the great things that Yarn has designed into this from the get-go, is that it uses MTLS for its security and auth, and just having that one-way communication makes it so much more secure just by design. You don't have to do anything to it to make it more secure. It's just that way to start with.
A few years ago at ArgoCon in Amsterdam, Christian Hernandez and I gave a talk about securing your GitOps environments, and we talked about this design pattern very specifically. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think these are not new design patterns. It's just that we're taking something that's a known technical solution and applying it in a new way to a business problem that is, in some ways it's new, in other ways it's not, but it's constantly evolving as the industry is evolving. The same kind of security situations, what that means contextually, is what's changing. So technical solutions, feels like they're almost finite. Business problems, infinite.
Yes, absolutely. And just like small spins on old business problems, also infinite.
Also infinite. Constant.
It's funny how, like, we, like a long time ago, we're all about agents, right? And then there was this bit, Ansible, right? Ansible came out and it's like, oh, it's agentless. And so then, like, there's this big push to go agentless, because everybody was like, the bees knees are with agentless tools. And now we've got, like, we've kind of come back to where, like, yeah, maybe it's not 100% of the answer. Maybe maybe it's some of the answer, but it's not all the answer. We do still need these things.
It's kind of like, people always ask me things about, like, okay, do you prefer like Customize or Helm or whatever, whatever the flavor of the thing is, and I'm like, I like the right thing for the right problem.
Yeah.
It's never an all or nothing. Trying to do an all or nothing is actually crazy making, right? Because you're going to take something that is 80% of the time what you need, and then try to like punch it into that 20% through usually some sort of nasty hack. Sorry, I have to ice my shoulder, and I literally came straight from physical therapy to this, and so like you saw the ice pack appear. You'll see me like desperately putting it where it belongs. I'm in so much. It's the right type of pain because it's physical therapy, but I'm in so much pain. So but the right tool for the right problem. And so having this, what I'm loving that I'm seeing is having a couple different configuration modes, right? Not wholesale replacing or wholesale. What is the word I'm looking for? Not mandating. That's not the word, but rhymes with. Like one way of doing it. I'm seeing there's a couple different modes for configuration. Of course, this doesn't supersede the classic way of doing Argo if there's a specific reason why that makes sense or is what you need. And so I like that a lot.
Yeah, I really like the two modes that are available. They give the organization or the customer the option to choose what's going to best fit for their particular model and use case that they're trying to fulfill. So there's quite a bit of flexibility there.
Maybe I missed it, but like, what are the modes?
Oh, Harriet, did you want to talk about the modes?
Sure. So there's two, as Gerald mentioned. There's managed mode or autonomous mode. And like the main gist between the two of them is where things live. So like the source of truth for your config in managed mode, that lives on the principal. So agents can fetch it from the principal as they need it. And on autonomous mode, it lives on the agent. It lives on the remote cluster with the agent. And then there's where you can create, update, delete, do things with your applications. Managed mode that lives on the principal, autonomous mode that happens on the agent.
Nice.
Yeah, so customers, if they're running a centralized model, they probably want to go for the managed mode, where essentially you drop the applications into the centralized cluster the principal is, and it will ship them out to the clusters. Customers that are running distributed maybe have a lot of tooling or operations based on distributing applications across different clusters, may want to shift over to the managed mode, right, which is probably closer to the distributed
Autonomous.
mode in that way. Or sorry, autonomous. Thank you. I'm always getting those names mixed up.
Yeah, no, it's definitely very well thought out. I can see that this was done by listening to what people are describing when they're describing the challenges with their environments. Like, this aligns very well with a solution that I can see readily applying to the types of things people have been telling me they're struggling with.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned before, I'm super impressed with the architecture that came up. One thing we didn't really mention with the network communications, when you do centralized, as you know, it basically means that cluster A now has to establish a bunch of watches on cluster B, which are kind of persistent connections, and again, network volatility and other things can impact them. And now that we're going to much more event-driven architecture, it just handles all of that so much more seamlessly and effectively.
Also, persistent connections are expensive.
They are.
They're very expensive. And I don't just mean like monetarily, although also yes. But they're expensive computationally. And when you see things like, I don't know if you've ever seen TCP socket exhaustion in action. I have.
I've seen it.
It's fun. It's fun, but you'll notice as eventually it runs out of memory, right? But what happens when you have something that's steadily consuming more and more memory, right? Your CPU starts working harder and harder and harder to reclaim any available memory that it can. So in terms, like, if you're running something on bare metal and it's experiencing that, you're literally burning your hardware, right? As your CPU works harder, it literally works hotter. You might as well just like light your hardware on fire because you're shorting its lifespan. But if you're paying for cloud consumption where you're paying by CPU, now you're just lighting your money on fire.
Yeah. This is bringing me back to my WebLogic days.
Wait, this happens today, my friend. I just saw TCP socket exhaustion in December, and I was so proud of myself because I recognized it, said, this looks like socket exhaustion, and then multiple weeks were spent trying to figure out what it was, only for them to be like, oh, wow, it was socket exhaustion. I was like, yes! Nailed it. But why of the socket exhaustion is, of course, always the harder, which we did figure that out as well. But I was very proud of that.
So the lesson we should take away from this is that everyone should always listen to Hillary the first time.
Please, just, I love saying I told you so, but I love not having to say I told you so slightly more.
Yeah, you like it when somebody
Very
else says.
slightly more.
Somebody says it for you. Yeah.
There you go. Amazing. Okay.
So just a quick question, like with the new agent model, right? Like, what is that? Does that do anything long term to how we implement Argo through the GitOps operator? Like, I guess we'll always have these different paradigms, right? Or does that mean that once the agent gets into the product and say it goes mainstream, right? Everybody's using it, everybody loves it, and it's like the greatest thing of all time. Does that eventually roll back into Argo to where Argo itself becomes less resource intensive, or you know what I mean? Like, do we start scaling some of the? I don't know if I'm asking this the right way, because it feels like this is almost like a headless Argo, right? Or like a, like I think Gerald said it earlier, like it's like a partial Argo deployment.
Yeah.
So is that going to be like a configurable thing where, hey, I want my core Argo to be maybe the slimmed down piece, and then if I wanted to boost it, you know what I mean? If I wanted to add these other features to make it more modular, I guess is what I'm asking.
I hadn't thought of it like that as like a starting point.
Yeah. Like
today, just kind of we've included it in the GitOps operator as like an extra piece. So like you can set up your traditional Argo and then modify it to use the agent. But I hadn't thought about it as like having this as the start.
Well, I think of it more like you start. I don't want to do this because I really do. I dog on this all the time, but like the subscriptions, right? You have like OKE, which is supposed to be just OpenShift, and then you have like OPP, which is supposed to be like the everything, right? To me, it'd be kind of nice if we had like this baseline Argo or OpenShift GitOps that was just like, hey, here's all the core things that you need. You still get a GUI, you still get a lot of the functionality that you desire, require, whatever. And then, but if you want all the extra stuff, like all the extra like high availability and all the extra craziness that comes with it, then it's a feature set that you add on, and I don't know.
Yeah, no, that does sound cool. And we've got so there is the Argo core that like is available in the upstream. It's like really slimmed down, and I believe we ship that as our like microshift.
Yeah, well, it's roughly equivalent to what we ship in Microshift. I don't know if it's exactly core, but it's the same idea. No API,
Mostly.
no UI.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Actually, I have a slide about this as well.
Yes.
Here we go.
Gerald, I don't know if you see that. I highlighted Christian's very serious question for you.
I did see that. Yeah. I'm way past my best use date on terms of WebLogic versus Liberty. I haven't done J2E, or now it's JE in ages. I mean, I'm still calling it J2E. That's how long ago it was.
I think that answers it very well for us.
But Hillary stole my fun fact. I was waiting to say, fun fact, Microshift is actually Argo Core.
Hillary or Harriet?
Oh, sorry, Harriet.
Yeah,
I'm already doing
Hillary.
I'm telling you, I'm guilty as hell of it too. Like, it happens.
I will say, Harriet, I think you are on the receiving end of this far more often than I am.
And that's totally fine. And I think we've made it more difficult today by like our names are almost the same length in our little like name pucks on this Restream platform.
Oh yeah.
And now we're together. Yeah. Visually, we're aligned.
And neither of us put our last names on there, and so it's visually very confusing.
I think you should go to some meetings for me, and I should go to some meetings for you, and we see how long it takes people to notice.
Yeah, that'll be great. I'll just start talking about how their problem is TCP socket exhaustion, and it'll be fine.
You got to start with that, though. You have to lead with all of that every time. I feel like this is TCP socket exhaustion.
People be like, what does that have to do with metrics? Everything, actually. So glad you asked.
All right, I've got a slide to share. This is the so on the left, this is our kind of version of Argo Core that you can find upstream in Argo CD. So very headless, doesn't have the UI, no API server, no application set controller. Very slimmed down because the places that folks are using Microshift are very, very small.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the agent, where you still get UI, you still get everything, but you just move the application controller out to your remote cluster.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it is super cool. And actually, I would like to see Argo Core available in more places for Red Hat customers as well. We have been thinking about that, and if that's something that folks are interested in, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I just know that like anytime you do anything with any of our products, right, it's always about the weight, right? It's like, oh, OpenShift is really heavy, or blah 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 is really heavy, because like you can't just install the thing. It's got to be the thing and its friends. You know what I mean? Like it's always a bunch of stuff that comes with it, and so it kind of feels like bloatware sometimes. And yeah, having that ability, I think, to just be like, hey, cool, here's the piece that you need, and then if you want to add on all the friends, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I'm really excited about with the agent is that this is slightly tangential, but I promise it is related. So when you're trying to scale, and like Gerald mentioned before, that we've got sharding available at the moment, but like you've got a bunch of clusters that you're sharding across, and maybe they're all unevenly resourced. One's got like a really beefy GPU on it, and with the current sharding, you have to like evenly split it, and that's not that useful if your clusters are uneven. Christian's question, that's a good question, Christian. I'll get to that in a second. So with the agent, you can just move your workloads to the cluster that it makes sense to have it on, and do that kind of shuffling them around yourself to get optimal resource usage without having to like evenly distribute across your clusters. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. All right. Question: how does this affect Rackham? So, folks unfamiliar.
Do we actually call it Rackham? Is that really what we say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Red
Zero
Hat
notes.
Advanced Cluster Manager. This does overlap with the ACM agent. And yes, the plan is that they will not have their agent anymore. They will use our agent underneath, because they're already using GitOps, like OpenShift GitOps, as their GitOps engine for the majority of their workloads. They're deprecating their old GitOps engine. And the reason that they couldn't deprecate it before is that we didn't have this pull capability. They needed that for a bunch of their customers. So they were really just waiting on us to make the agent.
Nice.
And so now that is available as part of OpenShift GitOps, they're able to move forwards with their deprecation and have OpenShift GitOps as the underlying GitOps engine for all of ACM.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, a lot less work for them, which I'm sure they're thrilled about.
Yeah, dang it.
Don't lose your ice pack.
I totally lost my ice pack.
Man down.
The fun of whether
You know
Harriet
what?
can reach for it.
What was that?
Now we get to see the fun if you can actually reach for it with your bum shoulder.
I can't.
No.
I absolutely
It's gone
cannot.
forever now.
You need to get one of those
gone.
like extendo claws.
Yeah.
Oh, the old
Now
people.
that I have one, just not at my desk. I don't just have one. I have a few of them. My husband bought me. But I don't have it at my desk. But actually, it's okay because this is a fun medical fact. You really shouldn't ice for more than 10 or 15 minutes at a time. It has been roughly 10 minutes, so we're going to call that acceptable and go ahead and let it come back to temperature. And then you have to wait an hour in between icing. So if I feel like I need more ice, I have to wait an hour before I ice it again.
Jeez.
There you go. Not medical advice, just a retelling of the medical advice I have received.
Good disclaimer.
I don't give medical advice. I'm not a doctor. And I'm not your doctor, certainly. Over icing is a thing. Don't do it. It's bad. Great. So I think unless
before we move on, I just remembered another ACM fact that people might be interested in. So not only are ACM going to be using our agent at some point in the future, in the meantime, before we get there, they are going to be releasing an ACM add-on for the Argo CD agent. And that is going to be tech preview really soon. I believe they were targeting about October. So you'll be able to just get on in there and start using it as an ACM add-on from next month.
all of the engineers screaming that you set a date.
I know.
I hear them. My engineering soul just like cried out into the void of don't give dates.
I'm so sorry, ACM team. Well, I'm going to go one step further and say that we're planning to GA the GitOps agent. Like as part of OpenShift GitOps, the agent's going to go GA in December.
December.
Yep.
And when that doesn't happen, everybody is going to be in your inbox.
Well, just throw the solely caveat out there. Just know everything can slide, everything can slip. You know,
dates can change. Oh wow, Johnny just got like canceled for that. wasn't me. I didn't do it.
I have no idea what happened.
Big Brother, man. Big Brother happened. Yes, all dates subject to change because, of course, we release things that are of quality, not of fast.
Indeed, yes. And that is one of the things that I love about our downstream agent is that we do a whole bunch more like security testing and a whole battery of other tests before we release it. So when people are like, "Hey, why haven't you updated the ArgoCD version yet?" We're trying. We're running tests. We'll get there.
I cannot. Okay, so the node npm CVE, right? That just what was that, like last week or whatever? The malware. It's so important to like move fast, break things. Can't be the way anymore. There has to be an extra level of due diligence because of the times we live in. So, yep, all dates subject to change because we will release something that is secure and of quality. I hope that's what we're striving for.
I think you can still move fast, but a lot of the NPM problem is just that their infrastructure is terrible for trust, right? They don't have any of the things built into it. Like some of the, like Rust's cargo system, for example, has a trust mechanism built into it, whereas NPM does not, as far as I know.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Of somebody I asked about that was like, yeah, that whole situation is just full on nightmare. Which sounds, I think that's a great way of putting it. And I don't mean to cast shade on any of the people who've been working hard over there or the folks who are dealing with the fallout, like all of the hug ops for them, because oof. But yeah, it's we definitely are in the context we're talking about. It's definitely two very different worlds.
I used to live in JavaScript land. I once upon a time I was a JavaScript developer.
Yeah,
I'm glad to not be there right now.
Took that off my resume. If you ask me if I can do it, the answer is no. No, thank you. That and PHP deleted.
Cool.
Just, not no, thank you. Right, so we got about 20-ish minutes left, and I think Gerald has a small demo for us.
Yes, I can do a demo. Fingers crossed that
Fingers crossed.
Everything goes.
He did assure me earlier today that he did do the adequate sacrifices to the demo gods. So this is really going to be putting it to the test.
So this is actually my first kick at the can at kind of presenting or demoing the agent. So I think what I'm going to do is basically start with, just showing the ArgoCD UI and how it looks and how things work. And that you can see that it's transparent from a user perspective, right? Like if I go into, can you see my screen okay? Does it show up? Okay.
Yeah, it looks great.
So if I go into settings, you get the usual things here that everybody knows and loves from Argo. And if I go into clusters, you can see I've got a remote cluster defined here, and this is where the agent is running on and where my applications will be deployed. And if I go look at my applications, you can see they're using apps in any namespace. And the way it works with the agent is that we're using apps in any namespace to match the application with the corresponding cluster, aka agent that we want to deploy things on. So I have a namespace on the principal cluster or the control plane cluster called remote cluster, and this is where these are deployed and they go. You can see they're synced. I can press the sync button. In theory, oh, what happened there? See, this is what happens. Oh, I missed a permission. Darn me. Oh, well, let's keep going. But, I can see my application, which is running not on this cluster, and it's not directly being managed by Argo CD on this cluster. It's being managed through the principal and agent running on the other cluster. I can click on it. You can see there's a tiny bit of lag because it's going through the agent, but I get all the same things that I would normally do out of an Argo CD instance, right? I can see my live manifest, my desired manifest. I can see the events. Even though where the UI is running, it has no direct access or connectivity to that other cluster, right? All this communication is happening through that agent. So that all looks perfectly normal. Then I can go ahead and I can just say deploy a new application. Fingers crossed I didn't mess this up. If I do, actually, let's just have a quick look at that application first. So this is my application. Is that big enough? Make it a little bigger there.
Yeah, I think this is better now.
Okay, so you can see from a namespace perspective, I'm deploying this application in that remote cluster namespace, and the destination is being set to the name, which is remote cluster. And because I'm using AppSync namespace, it's also tied to a app project that supports that AppSync namespace. So that's the application. It's pretty dirt simple. Let's go ahead and apply it. Oh, let me just do a double check here. OC get pods. Make sure I'm actually on the principal. I am. Great. And then we'll just go ahead and apply it. Control plane apps, remote cluster.
Christian coming in with all of the hot tips.
There you go. How to fix your permissions issue.
All right, so that got created. Now we can see my application is syncing. Fingers crossed. Come on. Sync baby sync instead of drill baby drill. I was fixing some problems I was having just before this demo, and now I'm thinking, did I break something when I did?
That's always what happens.
Because usually this is very quick.
Yeah, as soon as you touch it within like an hour of a demo, then that's when the gremlins arrive.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think
you're not allowed to mess with it after you've done your ritual sacrifice. Then if you mess with it after, you have to redo it.
I had to fix something because when you click on these resource panes, they weren't loading, and there was something that I had missed in the configuration that needed fixing. But I had to tweak a few other things, and I might have accidentally broken it when I tweaked it, but I didn't think anything I touched would have broken this. But oh well, you have to take my word for it. It works. I've broken something.
Trust you.
Right now, with it being tech preview, the setup is a little involved, and there's quite a few steps to it. And this is going to get simpler over time. As Harriet mentioned, we have the ACM add-on that's coming, and it's going to take care of a lot of the plumbing and the infrastructure, the mutual TLS and things that need to be set up, and shared secrets, etc., across the two clusters, and it'll make it much easier and reduce the amount of steps. So I apologize that it's not quite 100%, but that's why I kind of left a couple applications that I previously deployed and didn't delete them and do everything from scratch, because I wanted to make sure I at least had a functioning state at that point. And then, if you look at it from the clusters perspective, under the hood, if we look at the pods in my Argo CD namespace, you can see they basically match up to what Harriet was showing in the slides. I've got the principal running here, along with Dex for authentication, Redis, the repo server, and then the Argo CD server. But you don't see the application controller, right? It's not running at all. And if we go to the agent cluster, handily labeled, and we look at its workloads, so you can see here we've got the agent running, and here we have the application controller, Redis, and the repo server as well. And it's what's responsible for deploying that. If I go look at the agent one, you can see if there's any errors that are happening because of that thing. Nope, no errors here. So maybe it's on the principal. Have a quick look there. Logs. Not seeing any errors. Did it sync? Nope, didn't sync. I'm going to have to track down what I did wrong there. But the interesting thing here, too, is if you look at it, you can see the event-driven nature of it. For example, in terms of processing queues here, and then on the agent side, you can see there's all the events that are coming through in terms of the events that are happening that the agent is firing off and receiving from the principal, right? So it's very much an event-driven architecture, which is, like I said, really nice from a network resilience point of view. But again, the big thing from my perspective, from a user, I don't even know that I'm running an agent here, right? It just looks like regular Argo. It works like regular Argo. There's really nothing complex about it in terms of, your developers and users of Argo CD to interface with it.
Yeah, this is really neat. The experience visually looks so familiar, right? I was kind of curious about that to see if there was any immediate tells. The fact that there's not is, I think, pretty cool. I do think this really is. If I can hark back to the platform engineering thing concept that I sort of helped write a book on last year. This is a really great example of something designed for platform engineering teams to really use and benefit from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I got distracted by your error message.
Yeah, I was kind of curious where it was while you were talking, and then I forget I'm sharing my screen and distracting everybody.
No, I mean, it's the engineer thing. We love figuring out what went wrong, right?
Yeah. The only other thing I was going to show really quickly here is if we go to the operator, the installed operators, look at the GitHub's one. I'm going to pontificate for a second and see if people are interested in this, because there's kind of two minds. But if we go down, this is where you can see in the operator, we've configured the agent. So in the operator spec, there's a new Argo CD agent where you can specify the principal, the allowed namespaces for it, which it uses for matching with the remote clusters, the mutual TLS settings, etc. So that's pretty straightforward. And then you can see you just disable a bunch of things, right, that we're not going to be using. So like the controller, for example, is that application sets disabled, although you can enable it for this. But the controller is disabled down here, right? So that's set up. Now, the pontification part right now is that to deploy the agent, you have to use a Helm chart to do that. And I'm kind of two minds on it. I think the reasoning for the Helm chart is that we're planning, and to be completely honest here, we're planning on supporting non-OpenShift clusters eventually with the agent. So the Helm chart would be needed for that. But from my perspective, I'd still like to see, an Argo CD agent. And if folks would like to see that, feel free to pepper Harriet with emails and Slack messages saying, hey, we want to see that, Harriet. Because, I don't think it's urgent that it be done as a top priority for the agent, but it's something I think from an easy use perspective would be very helpful. But again, part of the reason why I'm bringing it up is ACM is going to cover this as well. So maybe it's not as needed there, but yeah.
Yeah, well, we are planning to support non-OpenShift, running the agent on non-OpenShift clusters with GA. So
amazing.
December,
yeah,
to reiterate my enthusiastic plan.
Double down.
I'm thinking about the question you just posed, Gerald, and I would need to see a little bit more about the deployments to be able to say if I felt strongly that more than a Helm chart was needed. And it comes down to, like, Helm does some things incredibly well and then still has, like, CRDs and stuff like that it struggles with. So I think how much of the things that Helm struggles with are at play would be the determining factor for me. If those types of things are not, it's not that Helm struggles with them. I want to be very clear. This is a design decision, right? They have taken an active decision of what they will and will not do. So it's if you try to use them for the other things, you're kind of an improper utilization of Helm a little bit. But point is, I would say how many of the things that Helm is not truly designed for are at play would determine whether or not I felt like Helm chart is like wholly sufficient versus not. And again, part of that's just like, what do we really need to do versus what do we not need to do?
The thing from my perspective is that when you install the agent with the Helm chart, it just installs that agent deployment. It does not install the Argo CD components you need. So because the ACM add-on isn't available yet, and this might just be the awkwardness that I feel when I install the agent, is I install the agent through the operator. I enable the application controller, disable the server, and then I had to install the agent through a Helm chart. And I'm kind of like, what? Why am I using a Helm chart here? Why can't I just go Argo CD agent.agent and have it spit out the agent pod for me, right? In terms of keeping the experience kind of within the operator and congruous in that way, right?
Yeah.
Now, having said that, when the ACM add-on comes along, it will deploy the agent. I'm presuming deploy the components as well. So you'll get a more congruent and holistic experience at that point, and maybe my want for it will fade away at that point. I don't know.
Yeah, having the operator run the Helm chart would kind of be a nice
I've got to admit, I am not a fan of operators wrapped around Helm charts. It's like if you're just wrapping a Helm chart, just let the guy run the Helm chart. You don't need to add more creds to the cluster to support that.
Yeah, well, I mean, 6 of one, half does the other, right? It's kind of like it's one of those things where we're doing it with the operator would split the difference, where like we're not going to be running it on just OpenShift, so keeping that Helm deploy version for those other types of environments. But then you have, when you are on OpenShift, the operator doing it, so you basically are just bridging the gap between those two things as opposed to fully diverging.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's an idea. I'd like some people who are more familiar with the exact implementation details. So like, I'm armchair coding right now, right? Like,
no. So what you're saying makes perfect sense. I'm thinking more of the scenario where it's a operator that all it does is wrap a Helm chart. It adds no other value than wrapping a Helm chart. So what you're getting in this case, we have the operator. It adds a lot of value to different things. It could just deploy the Helm chart instead of having to add a bunch of code to it to deploy the agent.
Correct.
Itself, right, is what you're getting on. That makes sense. Yeah.
That's probably what I would do. Asterisk. This is armchair coding.
Yeah, and the ACM add-on is going to be our like recommendation from like the GitOps team for Red Hat customers. The add-on is going to manage your installation, your lifecycle. It's also got it's called the custom signer registration type, which is going to automatically rotate your agent's client certificate on network clusters, so like your remote clusters, which is just a delightful addition, if I may say so myself. So yeah, if you're using ACM already, the add-on is going to be the way to do it. If you haven't looked at ACM yet, check it out. It's pretty cool.
I'm
Rackham. Sorry, I'm still on that.
Yeah, it's Rackham.
Yeah.
Have you ever? This is wrong. This is the wrong place for this. Have you ever actually said like the entire name? It's Red Hat Advanced Cluster Manager or Management for Kubernetes. Like, dude.
That's too many.
Yeah, why'd you pick such a long name for that? Like, what is going on?
Wait, if you have Cluster Manager for Kubernetes, isn't that like redundant? What other modern application of the word cluster? Where else do we use that in software engineering right now, aside from Kubernetes?
I guess it could be for thank you, Christian.
You know, Rapid 4K, I can get behind that actually. That actually sounds like a thing.
I guess it could technically be ACM for OpenShift versus ACM for Kubernetes, because you can do non-OpenShift stuff with ACM.
OpenShift is just opinionated Kubernetes, so it's ACM for OpenShift versus ACM. Like again, it is just for Kubernetes. I think it's very redundant, and I don't love it.
It's just I'm not a big fan of like crazy long names and things, especially because like we do a lot of demo. Like all of us here do demos, right? Or we all do presentations, and so like when you're trying to toe the line and you're trying to say the product names correctly, which I'm the worst because I always say Hypershift instead of hosted control planes. But like when you have to say the whole name, you're like, okay, it's Rackham. I'm saying it's either gonna be Rackham or it's ACM. Yeah. Or you're like Ace Ventura. You're like.
I don't typically pronounce acronyms as words if I can avoid it. I know this is a very common thing. I used to have a manager. This was hilarious. He would explicitly name things in a way that would give them ridiculous sounding like acronyms if you pronounce the acronyms as a word. And it's because it made him just giggle with people tripping over that, trying to do that. And I thought that was delightful. but he was much better at coming up with those types of names than I am. So I've never bothered to try to follow in those shoes. But I'll never forget that, because like him letting me in on that was just, I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Why did it? 5 minutes left, and Gerald says it works.
Yeah, I don't
Exciting.
I don't know what the problem was, and I'm gonna have to investigate some more, but it gave me that error, so I just deleted it and then added it back again, and boom, it worked right on the first try. So there's something funky going on there.
I told you forgot to re-up your demo god sacrifice,
Yeah.
and that
So this-
was your problem. They
Yeah, it's all
reminded you.
deployed now, and if I go look at pods and we see the BGD namespace, you can see my application is running there. Everything's fine with it. So I don't know what magic I did, but it's working fine now. It's something for me to investigate, like I said.
I like Christian's suggestion of OGO for OpenShift GitOps operator.
Okay,
I feel like we could take that one step further. If you go for all of the capital letters, it could be OSGU.
Osgo.
I would call it OSGU.
Osgo.
I'm having like, yeah. Then you can have a shirt it's like Yogo or Ozgo. Osgo.
And if we put Red Hat at the start, then like Rackham.
Rusgu?
Brosgu.
Rosgu?
Red Hat build of Ogo.
And I see I have to disagree with Christian too. Application and namespaces is awesome. Anytime you do multi-tenant type scenarios, application and namespace is the greatest thing since sliced bread, in my opinion.
You know what? I'm going to have you two on in an episode just to debate this topic. I think that should be an episode.
Happy to
Sounds
do
pretty
it.
good.
It might be short though, because I'm right. I'm just joking. I'm taking advantage of the fact that I have a mic and Christian does not this time. Usually he's the one I'm texting or messaging him in the back.
Oh man, these are fighting words. I love it. I love everything about it. All right, well, we only have 3 minutes left, so let's wrap this up. Harriet, Joe, thank you guys so much for coming on for our first episode back from hiatus. This was a really neat thing to learn about and see. I actually hadn't heard about it outside of the two of you. Other things across the project have made their way to me while I was on medical leave, but this one did not. I learned a lot about it today. I have lots of excitement about seeing it. I feel like we should check in a year from now, right? How's it going? What does it look like? What are we hearing from customers on the field? Is it scaling the way like people always imagine GitOps scaling, where you've got fleets of thousands of things or whatever the heck? These are the questions that I'll be keeping in mind as time goes on.
Sounds like a plan. Book us in.
Sounds like a great plan. All right. Until then, we've got another episode in 2 weeks. I don't have my life together to know what that episode is. We will figure it out, Johnny and I. But we will have another episode in 2 weeks, and we're gonna be back at this and exploring GitOps again. So thank you all for watching. Again, Harriet, Gerald, thank you so much for being here. As always, choose your technical debt wisely, and we'll see you later.
See ya.
Bye.